So I saw a thread on propilotworld.com, of which I'm a member, the other day, and it kind of got me thinking. The question, or the thread title was, what got you into aviation? And it got me thinking, what got me into aviation? I don't really know, to be honest with you. My family has dabbled in aviation, but nothing like professionally or airline pilots or anything like that. One uncle was a Navy pilot, but that was before my time, and I didn't ever really see him in that capacity. Another uncle was a CFI in Seattle. An aunt worked for Boeing, but not as a pilot or anything. Another uncle took private pilot lessons. My grandfather, on my mom's side, started private pilot lessons when he was like 60 or something. There's an article in the paper, but again, I was really young. So I don't really know what the impetus or the catalyst was to get me into aviation. I think it's just man's natural inclination to look to the sky and want to be there. I don't know. Maybe it's an adventurous spirit. Maybe it's doing things that others can't or won't do. I don't know. Anyways, my aviation curiosity really peaked, I guess, in high school. I joined Civil Air Patrol. I was active in a lot of different activities in high school. The Civil Air Patrol was pretty high on my list. I was working on my Eagle Scout simultaneously, and I finished that. And CAP was the next big thing for me, I guess, and I did pretty well in that. Got to go on a couple flights. I think that was my first time in a small airplane, actually, was Civil Air Patrol. So that was pretty cool. My plans all through high school were Air Force Academy, fighter pilot, that whole route. I applied beginning of my senior year for a scholarship, an Army or an ROTC scholarship. The Army was the first to respond, offering a 4-year, all expense paid scholarship to the college of my choice that has an ROTC program. So I took it. I've never been one to gamble. I did not want to say no to the Army scholarship and potentially lose out on that and hope that I was going to get accepted at either the Air Force Academy or West Point or something. High school, my vision started to get a little blurry. At that time, in that era, it was pretty tough to get still is tough to get a pilot spot, but I knew that vision would be a disqualifier for me right off. So even if I did make it to like the Air Force Academy and did graduate, chances of being a fighter pilot were probably pretty slim in my case. So I took what I had versus what I didn't have. I took the scholarship, and I don't have any regrets. Things have worked out really well. I graduated from college. I have a bachelor's degree, international relations. I attended BYU in Provo, Utah. Commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Military Police Corps, and served in the Army. Now, it wasn't until I was an Army officer that I had the means really to take up flying, and that's where I did. Manhattan, Kansas, Fort Riley, Kansas is where I was stationed, but Manhattan, Kansas is a great little airport. Drove by one day, saw the FBO there, and I think it was called Kansas Air Center. Went inside, started taking lessons, and the rest is history, so to speak. I soloed in November 5272 Quebec. It is still in flight, not at Kansas Air Center. It's been sold to somebody in Tennessee, I think it is. but soloed there and took my private pilot check ride in Salinas, Kansas, and basically had a great time. Flew around, built some hours, and was planning on transitioning out of the Army. I had an academy date with the DEA. Had gone through all that background and hiring process, but it was still federal government, and federal government is kind of, those of you who work there know what I mean, retirement, not so good. And so I was trying to put as many irons in the fire as possible, you know, just see what was my best option. I interviewed with the CIA, went to the final interview step for the CIA. Did not get that job, which is probably for the best now, but didn't get that job. And then I got hired. Well, let me back up. I had every intention of becoming a professional pilot at that point. I'd started working on my instrument rating, and then 9/11 hit. I didn't have my instrument. I barely had 100-something hours in my logbook. And I didn't think that it was the best time to be breaking into the aviation industry when people are being laid off left and right. Many of you know what I'm talking about who lived through that. And my condolences and my admiration to all of you for making it through that, because boy, what a time that was. So I looked elsewhere. I got hired by the Sacramento Police Department. I spent 16 years there. Had an absolute great career. No regrets at all. A lot of opportunities, which are probably not pertinent to this interview, but that's kind of how I got into aviation. I did work in the air unit at Sacramento Police Department at the end of my career, and became a member of a flying club. Did a lot of flying around here in California. Built most of my hours here in the Sacramento area. So I got to a point in my law enforcement career where I felt it was time to make a change. Aviation, again, has always been on the brain, and had an opportunity with my current company, and I decided to go for it. A little scary, well, a lot scary. Pay cuts, unknowns, what else? Being such a low time that I am, and not having any other safety net out there. But you know what? Sometimes you have to do it. And the only way to get ahead sometimes is to take a step back. So here I am. I am very thankful for the opportunities I've had. I love what I'm doing. I don't have any regrets. I just want to go fly. Anyways, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments here below. Hit me up. Always happy to respond. And if you're in the same boat, I don't mind talking about my experience and maybe helping somebody else out along the way.